you wanted the best, you've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Folks, it's Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com. Ladies and gentlemen, the earliest things that makes official. Welcome to the big show. I'm so glad that after 14 years, she took off that mantle of calling out the Chris Voss Show because, I don't know, people don't run up and scream at me as much going, the Chris Voss Show in events. But we don't do much events because of that post-COVID day. Anyway, guys, that's just a setup to get me into guilt, shame, and cajole you to refer to your family, friends, and relatives. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, YouTube.com/Chris Voss, and whatever the hell else I missed, because I'm trying to think of too many things all at once and entertain you people during the show. This is what we do. Opinions expressed by guests on the podcast are solely their own and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the host or the Chris Voss Show. Some guests of the show may be advertising on the podcast, but it is not an endorsement or review of any kind. Today's featured author comes to us from bookstolifemarketing.co.uk. With expert publishing to strategic marketing, they help authors reach their audience and maximize their book's success. As always, for 16 years and 18 on YouTube, 16 years on the podcast, 2,800 episodes, we bring in the most amazing minds, and we bring you a wonderful young lady today. Dr. Samantha Slotnick joins us on the show. Her book is entitled, But Mommy, I Can See, out October 18th, 2024. That was my best rendition of, I don't know, an 8-year-old or something. But so we're going to get in with her. We're going to find out what this seeing business is all about. I've seen it lately on the news, and now we're going to see it on the show. Dr. Samantha Slotnick is a behavioral
optometrist.
I don't know why I was brain farting on that one, but it's probably the Alzheimer kicking in. She is practicing in Scarsdale, New York. She works with adults and children who have vision problems which interfere with their ability to learn, to read, to comprehend, or even pay attention. Her private practice, Mind, Body, World Optometry, takes a holistic approach to vision care where she provides primary eye exams to children of all ages, including adults too, because I've seen some adults that behave like children. I've been on Twitter. For children, many of her prescriptions include low-power lenses, which can have a surprisingly positive effect on reading fluency and learning capacity, which is more of what we need to keep you off of Twitter. Complementing the passive therapy which classes can offer, she and her team of vision therapists provide optometric vision therapy, blending simple, elegant techniques with cutting-edge technology, such as augmented reality software. Hey, that's pretty new. My vision tech doesn't have that. What the hell's going on? She has a diverse background with undergraduate roots in behavioral psychology, as well as physical chemistry and postgraduate training in behavioral optometry, vision development, vision science, and the dual training in art and science is the foundation for her thorough, balanced approach to patient care, maintaining attention to detail without losing sight of the big picture. Get the sight thing in there. I see how that slid in there. Welcome to the show. How are you, Dr. Slotnick?
Very well. Thank you so much, Chris. I appreciate the opportunity to meet with you.
I appreciate the opportunity to have you and learn more about what you know on the show so we can all be smarter. Give us your .coms. Where do you want people to find you on the interwebs?
So drslotnick.com. That's Dr. Slotnick is S as in Sam, LOT, N as in Nancy, ICK.com. That's my primary website. And from there, you can link to other websites. There is a landing page for the book, and the shortcut to that is a bit.ly link, bit.ly, / all caps, BMICS, which is short for But Mommy I Can See. And it's also embedded somewhere in my About section on my drslotnick.com website. And my sister website has other information, webinars, things like that. If you really want to go for a deep dive into my drslotnickblog.com, those are my main places to find me online. I've got a YouTube page where I've got some materials as well. And I've got Instagram and Facebook that are both available for the book and my practice. And our team loves engaging with humans of all types and walks of life. So interested in connecting. We love to find people and help them find new ways forward.
Seeing is kind of important. I've seen.
It helps keep us out of trouble in advance.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Helps me on those dates with red flags. Keep me out of trouble. No, I'm just kidding. And, danger approaching, like anybody who's, the people that knock on your doors at Saturday morning to sell you stuff. But Mommy, I Can See, the book. Give us a 30,000 overview of what's inside.
I wrote this book to help children and adults find their way to support, to help them to be able to engage in their world as a self-directed learner. And so most of the time, children who are getting screened for vision problems, they're getting screened often at a pediatrician, often at distance, but most of learning actually happens at near point. Most vision problems develop at near point. And it's not just as simple as can you see clearly, can you see well at near point when you're looking at something with all the time in the world to hold it steady and find your way through it. As we work through material, we actually are moving our eyes in space. And that coordination, the ability to focus and maintain eye coordination, is much more complicated than one might presume. And it's not often picked up on a screening that's going on at the pediatrician or at the school nurse. And so for the children who are getting the opportunity to get into a functional optometrist's office, they may actually get detected as having a vision problem that affects learning. So we think of them as learning-related vision problems. And the purpose of this book is to help children change their framework on how they look at lenses, to actually be open to accepting and receiving help that helps them become more confident, more capable, more interested in directing themselves energetically and informationally and educationally through their lives. And that starts with a love of learning, directing their attention through reading.
Attention through reading. We need more of this. I don't know what your thoughts are on this, but we've had some people on the show that have talked about they're seeing a lot of eye problems now in the world, and a lot of early, I can't think of the terms, but it's kind of where myopia. That's I was looking for an M, and you read my mind. You're psychic. You should probably start another revenue stream there. You got the YouTube, you got the Instagram. Anyway, and they've been seeing more eye disease earlier on, and they're saying a lot of it is, of course, people aren't taking the lutein and other things that are good for your eyes. They're eating so much junk, processed food.
Macular degeneration as well. Yes.
Yeah, that's it, too, the macular degeneration. And they're seeing it at younger ages, which a lot of optometrists have been on the show have been telling me that it's a real problem. And one of the problems, I guess, is when we look at these screens, these computer screens, these phone screens, people are sometimes looking at these things 24/7, I swear to God. It's surgical. I think it's grown into their hand. They can't release the phone anymore. It's assimilated into them. But basically, our brains are not wired for 2D. It's wired for 3D. You mentioned how your eye movements change when you're reading because your eyes are taking in that data. You mentioned like when people approach you and you'll be able to see what's coming at you, the three-dimensional read you can have, when we're sitting across from each other, even on these 2D screens, I can read your 3D biological communication that you're sending in thousands or hundreds of different ways that, whether it's hand movement, eye movement, lips, eyelids, we read like all this stuff and we make all these assertions and we determine, okay, is this fight or flight mode? Is this person a danger? Is this person a friend or foe? All that stuff. So does that sound supportive in your wheelhouse that you've seen?
Yes, absolutely, Chris. So you're tapping into the use of visual information as a way for us to understand the world before it gets to us, right? So the purpose of vision is to direct action. And part of that is to be able to anticipate our environment and things also approaching us. And so there is that movement-oriented piece as well as when we are in the learning mode, which is, like you said, we're not evolved yet to do this 24/7, or even 16/7. We're not evolved for the world that has fallen into our laps and you brought up COVID, especially since COVID, there has just been such an uptick in our utilization of screens. So we are not well designed for taking in visual information, processing information on a flat surface, and also on a pixelated surface or light projected at us. So what's different if you take a book in hand versus you take a tablet in hand to read a book, to read information? Because the book actually is just reflecting light back to your eye, and it's a much more naturalistic environment, and you start to engage with it in 3D. But when you have a screen projecting at you, for many of our patients of all ages, especially if they've had any sort of a concussive event or disruption in how they're functioning, that screen becomes an assault on their nervous system. You brought up the impact of macular degeneration. There's a lot of concern around blue light, for example. Blue light in and of itself, in my opinion, and in how I practice holistically, blue light actually helps tick up the parasympathetic nervous system. So blue light helps us rest and digest. Blue light is not in and of itself a problem just at the outset. So I worry about having too much protection from blue light all the way up at the level of the glasses. However, that being said, I've got software that I put on my computer to alter the blue light output or just adjust the lighting so that our body learns how to rest and come into balance in the evenings. So there are aspects of the screen that have ticked up the amount of myopia because people in this closed environment, without moving, they get stuck in this learning mode, and they're not doing the dynamic learning that we did, let's say 20 years ago, where we would go to a classroom and interact at the board and walk back and forth. And we would, we were not just looking at our screens that are a reflection of whatever is being presented at the front of the room on a screen, but we'd have to actually see the screen at the front of the room. Those transitions through space, those are the ways that we get engaged in our environment and with other people. And that keeps us ahead of trouble when it comes to the use of the visual process. But when people get stuck and they really engage at near point with a great interest in learning without enough movement, that's when the visual system starts to go out of balance. You start to get focusing problems because you're not using the focusing system. The body makes an adaptation. So this is that behavioral optometry or functional approach to vision care that comes into play, because if we're not utilizing our body to move, then we start to make these adaptations that serve us differently and adjust for, we're not moving, we're just reading. So the eyes become more adjusted for nearsight. And that's when the myopia develops. The character in my book, Sylvia, she is given a pair of lenses because she's starting to show signs of a vision problem that have not yet tipped over into myopia. But this is brewing. And the doctor in the book is identifying that she's having a problem, that the lenses are going to help bring her back into balance. They give her a chance to be more comfortable as she's reading, to feel less tension or strain around her eyes, around her forehead. You can see it in the beautiful images of the book. The artist picked up, I modeled pictures of my own discomfort so that they show up in the book, that you can see that Sylvia is struggling. She's struggling and uncomfortable. She puts the lenses on and that struggle goes away. Her body comes back into peace and balance, and she's out of the cautionary yellow zone that happens before myopia develops. So the biggest point of the book from Sylvia's perspective is that she has to readjust her relationship with why she's been given glasses, that it's not a weakness, but rather an opportunity for her. She doesn't need the lenses to see clearly. She benefits from the lenses to see comfortably, to perform more readily in the classroom for her reading. She ends up becoming a more engaged and an engaged learner who can understand the material at a quicker pace, simply because the visual information comes in through the words and it just shows up in pictures in her mind. The reading process is easier.
Yeah.
She becomes more self-confident when she's reading through the lenses. And also, she challenges that optometrist in the book. Prove to her, why should she wear them? Because she is pushing back, as she should. But mommy, I can see. I don't need these glasses. I can see without them. That's her story until she challenges the doctor and advocates for herself. And that's a whole other sideline that I love this spunky character. I have tons of children in my practice who have that same kind of energy. They challenge me with an openness. They ask questions of me, and I speak directly with them. I'm interested in helping them feel like they have a direct line to talk to me as their provider of care. I don't talk to the parent about the child. I talk first to the child and help them to be one of their own self-advocates. They learn how to become self-advocates. They ask good questions and they demand input from the provider. I want to see more of that for children of all ages. I think we all would like to see that feeling of being able to get answers from our healthcare providers. And so that was another reason that I wrote this story.
Yeah, I mean, being able to, I was listening to Ryan Holiday. He had a little YouTube short today. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, but he talks about stoicism and setting goals and things along those lines. And, he really, I consume a lot of audiobooks because, time and, whether I'm at the gym or driving, driving is usually the place I kick on the audiobook. And he was really espousing, you really need to read the books. And then we had somebody on the show, I think a year or two ago, that talked about how much you really learn when you read. And a lot of the stuff what you just talked about, where, your ability to develop the brain, to educate itself, to be more aware. I think critical thinking also comes from reading and developing that brain knowledge to analyze your data. And, there really is the depth of expertise in the world, and where just about anybody with a blog or a podcast can start making up whatever bullshit they want, me included sometimes, I suppose, on some of the funny shit I say. But yeah, it's real important. The other thing I think it's important that you're targeting these young people. I think I was 12 by the time they diagnosed me for glasses, but I went for probably a good year and a half squinting hard at everything.
There you go.
And it was only until it reached the point that I was really bad. I was probably losing my eyesight for 2 or 3 years, but where it got so bad by 12, I was squinting so hard that my teachers started going, "Are you okay, man? What's going on?" I'm just trying to see. And they're like, "Have you had your eyes checked, Chris?" I'm like, "Yeah, And then I guess I went into, back then, I don't know if they still do it, but back then they give you an eye test about then when you start school for your health, whatever. And they're like, "Yeah, you need to go see a doctor, eh?" And sure enough, I need glasses. And it was hard to do at 12 because I'm like, "I don't want glasses. The girls are going to think I'm a nerd." And which is, fine, I suppose. Nerds rule the world now anyway. But, I wasn't happy about it. And then I tried contacts. That didn't work. It took me a while to come around to contacts, but now I just stick my whole fist in my eyes and it's fine. I know it doesn't bother me. Grosses other people out. They're like, "Oh, you're putting your finger in your eye." And you're like, whatever. It's just, I do my own surgeries now too. It's just where I've gotten to at 58.
Congratulations.
A little bit of whiskey and, pour it on the wound and sew it on up. You're fine.
I don't know if I would recommend that to our viewers at home. So,
yeah, we probably should get the attorneys in here to shut that down. But no, I think it's good that you're letting people know, and it's something parents should watch for too. If your kid's squinting, your kid's having trouble in school, it could be their eyesight, because it was for me. I was bombing in school, and it was because I was just tuned out because I wasn't in focus. I couldn't see stuff.
You bring up a very important point. Where how do we pick up these vision problems? How do, let alone getting the right intervention? How do we even know that somebody needs help? Because not a single one of us can truly imagine what it is to look through somebody else's set of eyes. Mm-hmm. I mean, we don't even know whether we register color in the same way. Yeah. We might like the same colors, but it may look different to me than it does to you. I mean, there are so many aspects of the way that a person utilizes their visual process that are different from one person to the next to the next. And so a lot of times when parents don't have a vision problem, but their child does, they don't even know the signs to look for. So one of the things that you brought up is that it was actually your teacher who first flagged that there is something not right for you. The teacher was the one who noticed that while you were trying to see or learn, you were squinting your eyes. And so the parent who may be in free space, playing with a child, is not necessarily seeing the child do the things that they are made to do. Rather, they see the child doing the things that they choose to do or that they are attracted to. One of the best ways that I've come up with identifying a child who may have a hidden vision problem is to answer the question, is this child smart in everything but school? Because when a child has that natural curiosity, that love of learning, that children really, you know, they come into the world wanting to learn and uncover and discover things. When a child has that, they ask great questions, notice things, and really catch parents off guard sometimes with their beautiful questions. And then the teacher has mediocre grades for them, like that they're not really knocking it out of the park. Sometimes that's the key thing that a parent will find me, because they say, you know what, it doesn't seem quite right. This is a very smart kid, and I know I'm biased because I'm the parent, but it doesn't seem right to me that this child is not just doing a fabulous job in the classroom, because they see there's a mismatch between how they learn. But 80% of the information we absorb in a classroom is visual. So if there is a visual problem, there may be a learning related vision problem that is keeping a child from accessing their full potential. My job as a provider of vision care is to help to align that child with their potential, to take away some of those obstacles by providing them with a lens that situates them, just sets them up for success, helps them be able to access the information with less eye strain. But there's some other signs too. So there's this mismatch that a parent may notice, that my kid is smart in everything but school. Often that goes with the attention deficit moniker. Like people think, oh, maybe they have ADD, they have attention deficit disorder, or maybe they have dyslexia. They're struggling to hold attention, or they're struggling to read. Maybe there's this other problem. But I want to say that often a vision problem can mimic the same exact signs of ADD, and it can mimic the same signs as dyslexia. So those are the key ways that a child who shows those signs, they deserve an evaluation to rule out a vision problem, and not just to say the eyes are healthy, because we're not talking about the eyes. We're actually talking about the brain. Vision doesn't occur in the eyes. Vision occurs in the brain. And the eyes are a portal, gathering the information, collecting it, and reaching for information. It's not just a receptive system. It's a motor system. It's sensory motor. We engage the world by directing our attention where we want to learn, and we receive information by setting ourselves up to take in a larger point of view, a larger environment. Now, what I see in the chair, what you pointed out, those signs, a kid sits in my seat, they're fine, they converse with me, they're comfortable, and then I ask them to read something on the chart and they squint. Or I ask them to read something on the chart and they tilt their head. And now I see a new sign. They're talking to me, they're straight ahead looking at me, and I ask them to look at a pen or a target, and they go like this. They tilt their head. So they're doing something to realign the eyes with their head tilt. And so that's a very interesting sign that is often overlooked. But if you see a child who's tilting their head in order to see well, or when they're writing, it's not in a straight line, on the line or within the lines, they start to float above or drop below, there is a vision problem that has not been detected.
Yeah. And that was me. I couldn't see the chalkboard. Like and the teacher would be writing stuff on there, and they'd be talking about it. I'd be sitting there going, and I was always kind of a back of the class kind of kid, but it affects your motivation. It affects your outlook on life.
Exactly.
One of my problems now is I have computer glasses, and then I have driving glasses, and those are two wildly different things when it comes to my sight. But the problem is I walk around my house with my computer glasses on or my contacts in, and I do have bifocals, but I hate wearing them, but I do if I have to. But the problem is I don't see shit walking around my house. I don't know. The dog can take a giant turd on the floor and I probably won't see it unless I'm, focused. I don't see.
We have noses working.
Yeah. If your nose isn't working, my dog. I got a new puppy, and he has like nuclear farts. Like literally, the U.S. Atomic Commission contacted me and said that he has to wear an atomic badge now as a warning. Yeah, evidently there's plutonium and uranium in my backyard, and he is finding it and eating it. But no, I mean, I don't see dirt. It takes me a while. Probably I should probably do the carpet. That's why I hire cleaning ladies for stuff. But I just don't see like little things. And then I'll put on my driving glasses, come in from driving, and walk around my house and be like, I didn't know all this shit was going on. And so that's one of the difficulties. But if you can't see, you don't know what the hell's going on.
Yeah, it is our most comprehensive sense in terms of giving us advance notice of what is in our environment. And vision is different from the auditory in its ability to give us simultaneous information through a larger area compared to speech. I mean, music is another story. I can go off on that other tangent, but when we're talking about speech and people learning with really auditorily being oriented, they take one word at a time, or they're taking kind of concepts and phrases at a time. And you talked about listening to books, right? Listening to audiobooks. That's a way that you are kind of holding a throttle on how much information comes in at a time. And we take for granted that a person who's a really efficient reader, taking it in visually, they may not hear the language at all. They just process it. They see the words before they get to them, so it starts to set up their anticipation of what's coming next. Vision is really just confirming for them what they start anticipating when they're reading. So there's a different kind of a process in how one might receive information when it's taken in through the visual system versus the auditory. That brings up another sign that a person may have an undetected vision problem. When a person is reading and they slow down and they read, whether it's word by word or phrase by phrase, sometimes these are people who like to sub-vocalize. They kind of read to themselves, or they hear the voice in their head. Sometimes they move their lips while they're reading. Often those are subtle signs that they may also have a subtle vision problem, that they are preferring to take in the information through the auditory pathway. So they're using their vision to decode the words, and then they process the information through the auditory channel. Rather than go straight from they see the word and it has meaning and immediately they know what it means, or they see phrases and it has meaning. They don't have to go through that middleman of the auditory process. And so a person who tends to read with that tendency to slow down and hear what they read, that's yet another sign that a person may not have a fully comfortable and functional use of the visual process. Now, the book does go into some detail. It's a very interesting Easter egg of a book. I mean, you start this story and it's got a very whimsical presentation, interesting characters. There's a glasses case that I call Casey that sort of interacts with Sylvia, that is reflecting her emotional state. But as you work along and you get back to the doctor's office, as the problems start to reemerge, the social issues show up. I'm not wanting to wear my glasses now, and how does that affect the child? And then whether or not she's really wearing them. Then down the road, the doctor is able to present to Sylvia in a way that she receives and my patients receive. The reading process is so much more than just seeing and decoding words on a page. The ability to move the eyes over the course of the page is a physiological activity that it doesn't work well when your peripheral vision is not more open. Eye alignment affects the peripheral vision. A person who tilts their head tends to underutilize their peripheral vision. They tend to tunnel their visual field. Those same people may have signs like motion sickness in the car, especially when reading, but motion sickness in the car is one of those signs that their visual system and their balance of their head is probably a little bit off kilter, and that these are the symptoms that actually get managed during a vision therapy or rehabilitation process, or even just having a therapeutic pair of lenses. So we think of our glasses as a passive form of vision therapy. We retrain the brain to make better use of the eyes and of the visual information that comes through them. So when a child is struggling to learn in a classroom, when they're struggling to read independently, when they prefer things like graphic novels, they're interested in learning, but they are not so interested in tracking along, there's likely a hidden vision problem. And so I'm hoping that this book helps children learn that they can advocate for themselves and start asking for help, that there's a chance to benefit from lenses rather than depend on them. They're tools. That's how we prescribe them. They are tools that help change a child's potential or an adult's potential.
Oh, wow. You got to utilize the tools so that
That's
everyone
right.
can learn. So how can people interact with you on their website? What sort of services do you offer, and how can they find out more?
We do have a variety of ways to contact us directly through our website. Again, it's drslotnick.com. And patients who reach out to me, they may be looking for help for themselves, for their child. We have some tools on our website to help them self-assess. My team of providers are it's a heart-centered team. We listen and we help people find their way. We work with children of all ages. We work with adults. We work with patients who've had injuries, but really my passion is to help children get a new lease on their lives. We do work with people who are far away as well. So we have the ability to help people who are accessing us remotely. I have some ideas for the coming year where I'm going to be providing some other visual empowerment seminars, helping people to learn how to make better, richer use of their visual system without it necessarily being a clinical thing, but more of a background and philosophical thing, becoming more aware of your perceptions. And that's kind of our mission in our team, like my entire team of vision therapists, my front desk, my administrative team. We're all just here to help people help themselves, and very interested in changing lives and making new connections for people. The website's a way to reach us. That's probably the best way to get a hold of us, or a phone number.
All right. Thank you very much. We certainly appreciate it. It's been wonderful to have you, and very insightful, and giving people a lot to think about.
Thank you so much, Chris. I appreciate the opportunity to chat with you, and you're bringing your personal experiences into the discussion.
Thank you, Doctor. We appreciate it. Order up her book wherever fine books are sold. It's called But Mommy, I Can See, out October 18th, 2024. And seriously, if your child's having trouble in school, check into that. Watch for the squinting and stuff, and, get kids to read. What's great is we have so many authors on the show that write books like yours that are targeted towards children, that are designed to help their reading skills and their brains for reading and stuff. And of course, a lot of parents can get involved in reading to their children. I think that's a good start.
May I add one thing, Chris? The back of the book is more than just some references, but I have a whole Find a Doctor section at the back of the book, because there are behavioral optometrists, functional optometrists the world over. And there are a list of organizations that provide this kind of care in countries all across the globe. And I'm not the only eye doc out there who's doing this specialized work. So if you hear something that resonates with you, I would encourage you to find a copy of the book. It is available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, and I would love for people to find the resources in their home communities, because I'm not alone doing this kind of work. There are amazing providers the world over, and it is my great hope that this is a message that travels the globe.
We hope so, and let more people be educated. Thanks so much for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss. Chris Voss, one on the TikTok, and all those crazy places on the internet. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you next time.
You've been listening to the most amazing, intelligent podcast ever made to improve your brain and your life. Warning, consuming too much of the Chris Voss Show podcast can lead to people thinking you're smarter, younger, and irresistible sexy. Consume in regularly moderated amounts. Consult a doctor for any resulting brain bleed.
All right, Samantha, great show. We got it all.